Hello and welcome to our English news coming to you from Canal. First, the top stories of the news. The national football team qualifies to the 2026 World Cup, and the President of the Republic congratulates the squad for this major achievement. The President of the Republic, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, National Defense Minister, underscores the progress of the PNA while visiting the headquarters of the National Defense Ministry. Eleven Algerian nationals are repatriated after taking part in the Gaz Fusila in a joyful atmosphere, denoting the state's interest attached to the Algerians abroad. Algeria hails the ceasefire agreement in Gaza and the access of the humanitarian aid to the enclave after a two-year devastating war. Welcome back. First in our news, the national football team progressed to the final tournament of the 2026 World Cup of defeating in Oran Stadium, Somalia, with 3-0. In the wake of this achievement, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, congratulated on his social media accounts the national side, expressing his pride for this qualification that sparked great joy among Algerians, either here or abroad. For his part, Army General Said Graham, Minister, Delegate to the National Defense Minister and PNA Chief of Staff, extended his heartfelt congratulations to the national squad following this praiseworthy progress to this major sporting event. This progress to the final round came after defeating Somalia with 3-0. Let's follow the joy that sparkled in Oran Stadium after the final whistle.
وبعد ذلك توغل من محرز والتوزيع، هدف يحرك أنصار المنتخب عمورة. أول أهداف المباراة، الهدف السابع في التصفيات لعمورة. دفاع صافرة حكم المباراة جود فيليب تعلن عن نهاية المباراة بفوز المنتخب الجزائري ب3 مقابل لا شيء أمام الصومال. نحن في المونديال كانت هذه المباراة ما قبل الأخيرة هي طريق العبور إلى مونديال 2026، مونديال الولايات المتحدة الأمريكية المكسيك. وكم ألف مبروك.
Congratulations to the national football team. To another story now, the President of the Republic, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, National Defense Minister, Abdelmajid Tebboune, paid a visit to the headquarters of the National Defense Ministry. More details in this exhaustive report by Melissa Kabash.
President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, carried a visit to the headquarters of the National Defense Ministry, where he was welcomed by Army General Said Shangriha, Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army. After listening to the national anthem, different formations of the People's National Army paid the military honors to President Tebboune before he saluted his guests. namely the General Secretary to the Minister of National Defense, Commanders of Forces and that of the Republican Guard, the Cabinet Director to the Minister of National Defense, the Acting Commander of the National Gendarmerie, the Commander of the 1st Military Region, the General Inspector of the Army, as well as Central Directors of the General Staff of the People's National Army and that of the National Defense Ministry.
وانتي؟
مروة.
وانتي؟
رزان.
الله يبارك الله يبارك ربي يسعدكم ان شاء الله. تفضلي.
سيدي رئيس الجمهورية، أهلا وسهلا بكم في وزارة الدفاع الوطني.
يعطيكم الصحة.
أنا التاريخ، أنا نوفمبر، أنا العلم في السماء أعبر، كتبت أبطالا وفاءهم فداء تعطل، أنا ثورة التحرير أخبر، جزائر جزائر وطني أسطر، حب سلام فيها أفسر، ذكرى للحاضر يبشر، ذكرى للحاضر يبشر. نوفمبر نوفمبر يا أجمل الذكريات وأبهج أيامنا الخالدات، ومفخرة الجيش درع البلاد، وأسعد أعيادنا في الحياة، وأغلى الهدايا لأشبالنا، وأفضل ما اكتسبوا من هبات. نوفمبر نوفمبر يا تاج أمتنا ويا مطلع النور في الظلمات، لتحيا الجزائر فخر العرب، تحيا الجزائر، تحيا الجزائر، تحيا الجزائر.
تحيا بكم ان شاء الله.
The President of the Republic then met with executives and personnel of the People's National Army before delivering a keynote speech that was broadcasted via video conference to all command of the forces of these 6 military regions, major units and higher schools across the national territory. President Tebboune affirmed that the People's National Army has shown remarkable ability to adapt to the new dimensions of modern warfare, notably in the fields of cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, becoming today higher school for patriotism and defense of national sovereignty, thanks to its loyalty to the message of November 1st, 1954.
الجيش اللي تأقلم مع الحروب الهجينة، تأقلم مع الحروب السيبرانية، تأقلم مع الذكاء الاصطناعي، أصبح اليوم مدرسة عليا للوطنية وللدفاع الشرس عن حريتنا وحرمة ترابنا وعن الوفاء لرسالة أول نوفمبر 1954.
The head of state underlined that the ideal climate of affairs recorded today is established thanks to security maintained by the People's National Army.
أمن واستقرار متاع البلاد اللي هو على كتف الجيش الوطني الشعبي قوات الأمن هو اللي خلى الجاذبية اقتصادية تاع المستثمرين وطنيين أجانب.
The President of the Republic also recalled the role of the People's National Army and the different security institutions to face the scourge of drugs now threatening our youth and society.
رغم الحروب اللي اليوم تتوجه الجزائر وأصعبها المس بالشباب تاعنا. هذا إغراق الجزائر بالمخدرات أساسها هذا هو أساسها باش يقضي لك على المستقبل تاعك، والمستقبل تاعك راه في الشباب. اليوم راه في 30 سنة، منين يوصل ل 50 سنة ولا 55 سنة إن شاء الله راه ركيزة من الركائز الاقتصادية تاع البلاد ولا ركيزة سياسية نتاع الوطنية ونتاع كذا. راهم يدخلونا في السموم، ولولا يقظة الجيش الوطني الشعبي ولولا يقظة مصالح الأمن المختلفة لكانت الكارثة.
At the end, President Tebboune seized this opportunity to wish success when facing Somalia in the World Cup qualifiers.
الله يوفقكم جميعا إن شاء الله. إن شاء الله الأولاد يفرحونا اليوم في وهران إن شاء الله. إن شاء الله. المجد والخلود لشهدائنا الأبرار وتحيا الجزائر.
Taking the floor, the Army General, Minister Delegate to the National Defense Minister, PNA Chief of Staff, welcomed the President of the Republic for this timely visit, indicating that states that relies on its own strength and internal resources is more capable than others in facing external threats. The unity between the people, their leadership and the state institutions represent the cornerstone in building the edifice of national security and achieving stability.
صرح الأمن الوطني وتحقيق الاستقرار النسقي للدولة. في هذا الإطار تشكل الخيارات الاستراتيجية التي حرصتم السيد الرئيس على اتخاذها.
Within this framework lie the strategic choices taken by the President aimed at consolidating the status of a leading state, an emerging economy, a strong army, and the strengthening of the internal front, a rational and wise approach that enables our country to shape its own future while ensuring sustainable national security. This vision, stated the Army General, is based on the cohesion of institutions, the integration of efforts, and a strategic outlook that relies in Algerian expertise and the efficiency of national structures, a state that serves both the nation and its citizens.
استراتيجية ترتكز على الكفاءات الجزائرية وعلى نجاعة البنى الوطنية للدولة الخادمة للوطن والمواطن.
At the end, President of the Republic Abdelmajid Tebboune, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, signed the Golden Register and left the headquarters of the National Defense Ministry. Departure, he saluted Army General Saad Shengriha, Minister Delegate to the Minister of National Defense, Chief of Staff of the People's National Army.
To another piece of news now, 11 Algerian nationals are back to Algiers after taking part in the Gaza flotilla. They were received at the Houari International Airport by the State Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of national community abroad, Soufiane Shaib, in a festive atmosphere marking the state's interest attached to the nationals abroad. Algeria takes note of the agreement reached regarding the implementation of the first phase of President Donald Trump's peace plan in Gaza, deeming it as a first step towards ending the Israeli aggression against the brotherly Palestinian people. To this effect, Algeria welcomes the immediate ceasefire and the urgent delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza. To demands that Algeria and the international community have consistently and firmly called for in order to alleviate the suffering of the Palestinian people. Algeria hopes as well that this step will pave the way for a lasting and final peaceful settlement to the Palestinian issue that guarantees the Palestinian people all their legitimate national rights, foremost among them the right to establish their independent state with the 1967 borders with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital, as endorsed by the UN and reaffirmed by the international community through successive recognitions of the Palestinian state. Hope and expectation to implement the ceasefire agreement signed by Hamas movement and the Zionist entity, first phase of the US President Donald Trump's initiative to end the two-year war in Gaza, by which the occupation forces will withdraw the humanitarian aid, will be delivered, and an exchange of prisoners is expected within the upcoming 72 hours. The latest development with Melissa Kabash.
After 2 years of violence and numerous failed negotiations, a peace plan suggested by US President Donald Trump involving the Palestinian resistance movement Hamas and the Zionist occupation has been accepted. Mediated by Egypt, Qatar and Turkey, the peace plan includes the end of the aggression on the Gaza Strip, the withdrawal of occupying forces from the Gaza Strip, the opening of humanitarian corridors and the exchange of prisoners. This accord, described by US President as historic, marks a potential turning point, as US President Trump revealed 20 other points, including the liberation of 20 Zionist prisoners during the upcoming 72 hours, the lifting of the blockade, and confirmed his trip to the Middle East to attend the signing ceremony. For its part, Hamas called the US President, the guarantor countries, as well as different Arab, Muslim and international communities to ensure that the Zionist occupier fully respects the commitments made in the agreement. After years of bombardments, famine and destruction, this accord brings a ray of hope for millions of Palestinians, marking what could be the first step towards peace.
You are still watching Canal, coming up in our news. Moroccan cities are swamped by demonstrators voicing their legitimate demands for a decent life and more socio-economic rights denied by the Mersin regime. Welcome back to our news. Moroccan cities were swamped by demonstrators who voiced their legitimate demands for a decent life and most socio-economic rights, so far denied by the repressive Mersin regime. Bisma Far reports.
In Morocco, the youth is making its anger heard. In the streets and on public squares, they are denouncing a rigid system, dominated by corruption, nepotism, and illicit wealth. To them, the political class still denies citizens any real access to democracy.
The current system operates at two speeds, deeply affected by corruption and fraud. It strips citizens of their basic rights, and in the eyes of those in power, Moroccans have no right to stand up for their own causes.
After years of forced silence, the streets are erupting. Tensions are running high, clashes are breaking out, and several casualties have been recorded. Demonstrators accuse the leadership of seizing the country's future and making corruption a system of rule. For many, this moment is a turning point, a day when fear faded, determination took over, and voices rose to demand justice and accountability. And now, one question echoes across the country: who truly holds power in Morocco?
And in a related story, several EU members of Parliament denounced the ruling of the European Commission to extend the trade deal with Morocco, including the product hailing from Western Sahara, in a stark violation of the stance endorsed by the European Court of Justice. More indications with Bismafar once again.
In Western Sahara, the issue of natural resources returns once again to the center of public debate. This follows the intrusion of 3 Russian vessels into the territorial waters of Western Sahara to fish, a move described by Sahrawi monitoring associations as systematic plundering, depriving the Sahrawi people of their resources and their rights. Meanwhile, a new trade deal between the European Union and Morocco has drawn sharp criticism. This agreement allows the export of agriculture and fishing products from the occupied territory in direct violation of rulings by the European Court of Justice, which require the consent of the Sahrawi people.
We remain vigilant and firmly condemn this blatant breach of international law. It is a direct attack on the sovereignty of the Sahrawi people over their own resources. We demand the immediate withdrawal of all foreign vessels from our waters. This violation comes at a time when sovereignty and self-determination are at the heart of discussions at the United Nations.
For those defending the Sahrawi cause, this incident once again underlines the urgent need to enforce European court decisions and guarantee at last the legitimate rights of people stripped of their natural wealth.
And we wrap up our news with these beautiful shots and songs celebrating Algeria's progress to the 2026 World Cup final tournament. Once again, our best congratulations and wishes for the national team in the upcoming event and matches. Keep tuning to our channel and programs. Take care and bye-bye for now.